Have you ever looked at someone and wondered what's really going on inside their mind? What if you could understand what people think, feel, or hide without them saying a single word? That skill isn't magic. It's psychology, observation, and awareness. In this lesson, you'll discover how to read minds, not through supernatural powers, but by learning to decode human behavior with accuracy and confidence. Every person expresses their true emotions through body language, facial expressions, eye contact, gestures, and even the tone of their voice. Once you know how to notice these small details, you'll begin to understand what others really mean, even when their words say something else. You'll start to see truth behind smiles, confidence behind posture, and honesty through eyes. The ability to read people gives you a powerful advantage in life. In conversations, relationships, interviews, and even friendships. It helps you respond better, build deeper trust, and avoid manipulation. In this video, we'll break down 12 practical steps to read anyone's mind without saying a word. Each step will help you recognize hidden messages people send unconsciously. So stay focused, listen carefully, and by the end, you'll start noticing things you never saw before. Let's unlock the power of observation and decode human behavior like a pro. Step 1. Observe the eyes, the window to the mind. They say, the eyes never lie. And that's absolutely true. When it comes to reading minds without words, the eyes are your most powerful source of information. A person can control their words and even their expressions, but it's almost impossible to fully control their eyes. Every blink, glance, and direction of gaze tells a story. If you can learn to read those stories, you'll understand people far beyond what they say. Start by noticing where someone looks when you talk. If they maintain comfortable eye contact, it usually shows confidence, honesty, and interest. But if their eyes dart around or they avoid looking directly at you, it can mean nervousness, guilt, or discomfort. However, context is key. Sometimes people look away because they're shy or thinking deeply, not because they're hiding something. Next, pay attention to pupil size. When someone's pupils dilate, get bigger, it often means they're excited, emotionally moved, or attracted. When they shrink, it can signal tension, anger, or lack of interest. These changes happen subconsciously, and that's what makes them so reliable. The direction of eye movement can also reveal how a person processes information. For example, when people look up to the left, they're usually remembering something. When they look up to the right, they might be imagining or creating something new. Looking down often suggests emotional reflection, guilt, or shyness. You can also observe eye blinking. Fast blinking may indicate anxiety, stress, or lying, while slow and steady blinking often shows calmness and comfort. In conversations, when someone blinks less, they're usually paying close attention. Even the way someone makes or breaks eye contact carries meaning. If a person holds eye contact for too long, they might be trying to assert dominance or make you uncomfortable. If they look away quickly, they might feel intimidated or unsure. The trick is to notice patterns. What's normal for that person, and when it changes. To practice this skill, start observing people in natural situations, in public, in class, at work, or during friendly talks. Don't stare, just notice. You'll begin to see how much emotion is communicated silently through the eyes. Remember, reading eyes isn't about judging. It's about understanding. You're not trying to expose people, but to connect with them on a deeper level. The more you pay attention, the clearer their emotions become. Eyes truly are the mirrors of the mind. Step 2. Study facial expressions. The real language of emotion. The human face is a powerful communicator. It can reveal feelings faster than words ever could. When you learn to read facial expressions, you start to understand emotions that people might be trying to hide. Happiness, sadness, anger, fear, or even deception. Every tiny muscle movement on the face tells a story, and once you know how to read those signals, you'll unlock the emotional truth behind people's actions. Let's start with the smile. Not every smile is genuine. A real smile, known as the Duchenne smile, involves the eyes as well as the mouth. When someone smiles sincerely, the corners of their eyes crinkle and their cheeks lift naturally. A fake smile, on the other hand, usually appears only on the mouth. It looks polite, but not warm. So, the next time someone smiles at you, check if their eyes are smiling too. Next, notice the eyebrows. Raised eyebrows can mean surprise or curiosity, but when they're held high for too long, it can signal disbelief or doubt. Lowered eyebrows often mean frustration, confusion, or anger. Sometimes, one raised eyebrow indicates skepticism, as if the person is questioning what you said. These small movements can completely change the emotional meaning of a conversation. Now look at the mouth. A tight-lipped expression might suggest the person is hiding something or trying to control their emotions. When someone presses their lips together, it's often a sign of restraint. On the other hand, a relaxed mouth usually shows comfort and openness. If the corners of the lips slightly turn down, it could signal sadness or disappointment. Micro-expressions are the secret key to reading people's real emotions. These are very quick, involuntary facial movements that last less than a second. They appear before a person has time to hide their true feelings. For example, if someone briefly flashes anger or fear and then smiles immediately after, that first micro-expression reveals what they really felt. Detecting these requires focus and practice, but once you develop the skill, you'll start noticing them more often. The eyes and face combination tells the full emotional story. If the eyes are tense but the smile is wide, something doesn't match. That mismatch often means the person is pretending or forcing their reaction. Authentic emotions always show harmony between facial features. The eyes, eyebrows, and mouth all move together naturally. Also, pay attention to how quickly expressions appear and disappear. Real emotions usually fade gradually, while fake expressions appear suddenly and vanish too fast. For instance, when someone pretends to be happy, their smile might appear instantly and disappear the moment the conversation ends. To practice, observe people during natural interactions, like when they greet friends, react to jokes, or hear surprising news. Watch interviews, movies, or public speeches with the sound off. Try to guess what the speaker feels just by looking at their face. Over time, your eyes will get sharper, and you'll be able to notice even the slightest emotional shifts. Remember, facial expressions are the most universal form of communication. People from different backgrounds may speak different languages, but their expressions are almost the same. That's why understanding faces helps you connect deeply with anyone, anywhere. Learning to read faces isn't about invading privacy. It's about building empathy. When you can see beyond words, you respond with more understanding, patience, and wisdom. The face truly speaks the language of the heart. You just need to learn how to listen. Step 3. Watch body language. Actions speak louder than words. When it comes to understanding people, body language is your secret weapon. While words can be filtered or faked, the body often tells the truth. Every movement, posture, and gesture carries emotional information, sometimes more honestly than speech itself. Learning to read body language allows you to see beyond what someone says and understand what they truly feel. Let's begin with posture. The way someone stands or sits reveals how they feel at that moment. Open posture. Chest up, shoulders relaxed, arms uncrossed. Usually shows confidence, comfort, and honesty. Closed posture. Crossed arms, hunched shoulders, or a lowered head often signals defensiveness, insecurity, or discomfort. If someone leans slightly toward you, it indicates interest and engagement. Leaning back can mean disinterest or emotional distance. Next, notice hand gestures. When people talk with their hands naturally, it often reflects enthusiasm and openness. But fidgeting, tapping fingers, or hiding hands in pockets can suggest nervousness or uncertainty. If someone's palms are visible during conversation, that's usually a sign of sincerity. In contrast, clenched fists or hidden hands may mean they're holding back feelings. Leg positions can also reveal a lot. Crossed legs turned away from you can indicate discomfort or disconnection, while feet pointed toward you suggest interest and attention. Many people don't realize that the direction of their feet often shows where they want to go, physically or emotionally. The distance a person maintains from you also matters. If they stand close, they likely feel comfortable or connected. If they keep stepping back, they might need space or feel defensive. Of course, respect personal boundaries. What's comfortable varies depending on the person and situation. Pay attention to mirroring too. When people feel in sync with you, emotionally or mentally, they subconsciously mirror your movements. They might cross their arms when you do, lean when you lean, or smile when you smile. This is a strong indicator of trust and connection. If there's no mirroring at all, it might mean emotional distance or lack of interest. Micro movements of the body also give clues. For example, a quick shoulder shrug can signal uncertainty, while a slow nod shows understanding or agreement. Touching the neck or face often indicates anxiety or doubt. If someone suddenly stiffens or freezes during a topic, it may mean that subject makes them uncomfortable. When you observe body language, remember, context is everything. Never judge one gesture alone. Instead, look for patterns. Maybe a person crosses their arms because they're cold, not defensive. The real power of body language reading lies in connecting multiple signals, eyes, face, hands, posture, and tone, together. To develop this skill, practice quiet observation. Watch people in public spaces, meetings, or social events. Try to guess how they feel before hearing their words. Compare your assumptions with what you later discover. Over time, your intuition will sharpen, and you'll begin to sense emotions even before they're spoken. Body language gives you the gift of understanding the unsaid, the thoughts and emotions hidden beneath polite smiles and simple words. Once you learn to read it, you'll never see human interaction the same way again. Step 4. Listen to the tone. Emotions hidden in the voice. You might not always see a person's face clearly, but you can always hear their voice. That's why tone is one of the most powerful ways to read what's truly happening inside someone's mind. The words a person says are only half the message. How they say those words tells the rest. Every rise, fall, pause, and change in speed reveals emotion, mood, and even truthfulness. Start by focusing on pitch. A high-pitched voice often shows excitement, nervousness, or tension. A lower pitch usually indicates calmness, control, or confidence. When someone's voice suddenly goes higher than usual, they may be anxious or hiding something. Conversely, a steady tone reflects honesty and self-assurance. Next, pay attention to speed. People who speak quickly are often excited, nervous, or trying to hide discomfort. When they slow down too much, it might mean hesitation, sadness, or deep thought. Confident people usually speak at a balanced pace, not too fast, not too slow. So, when someone's speaking pattern changes mid-conversation, take note. That shift often signals an emotional change. Then comes volume. Loud speakers tend to project dominance or enthusiasm, but sometimes they raise their voice to cover insecurity or anger. A soft voice may show kindness or shyness, but when someone suddenly lowers their voice, it might mean they're unsure, afraid, or don't want to reveal too much. Don't ignore pauses and silence. Sometimes, the most meaningful part of a conversation is what isn't said. A pause after a question might indicate that someone's thinking carefully, or hiding the truth. Long silences can show hesitation, discomfort, or reflection. Confident speakers pause naturally. Uncertain ones fill every second with noise. The rhythm and flow of speech are also important. Smooth, natural rhythm often shows confidence and comfort, while uneven or choppy speech can signal anxiety or dishonesty. You'll notice this clearly when someone lies. Their words may sound rehearsed or mechanical, with awkward timing between sentences. Also, listen for emotional tones. Anger hides in sharpness, sarcasm hides in forced laughter, and sadness hides in softness. A cheerful tone that suddenly disappears may reveal hidden frustration. When someone's words sound positive, but their tone feels off, always trust the tone. It tells the real story. To practice, try listening carefully to different people in conversation, on calls, or even in interviews and movies. Close your eyes and focus only on how they speak, not on what they say. You'll start to pick up subtle shifts. A crack in the voice when someone lies, a sigh that shows exhaustion, or a tremble that reveals fear. One more secret. Your own tone affects how others speak. When you talk calmly, people relax and open up more. When you sound impatient, they become guarded. So, tone not only helps you read minds, it helps you guide emotions. In every voice, there's an emotional map waiting to be read. Once you master the art of listening between the lines, you'll start hearing the truth that words try to hide. The voice doesn't just carry sound, it carries the soul. Step 5. Notice physical reactions. The body never lies. While people can hide their words or fake a smile, their physical reactions often tell the truth. The human body reacts automatically to emotions through small, involuntary signals, what psychologists call physiological responses. These are natural body changes that happen before a person even realizes it. If you learn to notice them, you'll be able to understand what's really going on inside someone's mind, even if they try to hide it. Let's begin with breathing. When someone is calm and relaxed, their breathing is slow and steady. But when they're anxious, nervous, or lying, their breathing becomes shallow and quick. You might notice their chest moving faster or their shoulders rising slightly with each breath. A sudden change in breathing pattern often means emotional tension or stress. Next, pay attention to blushing and skin tone. When people feel embarrassed, guilty, or caught off guard, blood rushes to their face and neck. You'll see a slight redness appear, even for a few seconds. Similarly, when they're scared or shocked, their skin can pale as blood flow decreases. These quick changes are hard to control and are strong emotional indicators. Sweating is another sign of hidden stress. If someone suddenly wipes their forehead, rubs their palms, or adjusts their clothes frequently, it could mean they're nervous or uncomfortable. Even in cool environments, anxiety can trigger sweating, especially on the forehead, upper lip, or hands. Also, watch for dry mouth and lip licking. When people are tense or lying, the body produces less saliva, causing them to lick their lips or swallow more often. Sometimes they'll even clear their throat repeatedly, a subconscious way of dealing with the dryness. Another revealing cue is fidgeting. Tapping fingers, playing with objects, touching hair, or shifting weight from one foot to another are all signs of restlessness or unease. While occasional movement is natural, constant fidgeting often means the person is trying to release nervous energy. Sudden stillness can be just as revealing as fidgeting. When people feel threatened or cornered, they sometimes freeze. Their body becomes rigid, their gestures stop, and their eyes lock in one direction. This reaction comes from the brain's ancient fight, flight, or freeze system. If you notice someone suddenly go still in a conversation, it might mean the topic hit an emotional nerve. Temperature changes are subtle but noticeable. Someone anxious might suddenly fan themselves or pull at their collar. Others may shiver slightly even in a warm room. The body reacts to strong emotions like fear, guilt, or excitement by adjusting blood flow and temperature. When observing physical reactions, remember, don't judge too quickly. Everyone's body language is different. The real key is to look for changes in behavior. If someone is usually calm but suddenly becomes restless or stiff, that's when you know something emotional is happening. To improve this skill, observe people in real life rather than relying only on theory. Notice how their body reacts during emotional moments. A tough question, a compliment, a disagreement, or an uncomfortable silence. These small signals will start to make sense with practice. Your body can hide words, but it can't hide truth. By watching these physical signs carefully, you'll begin to read emotions in their purest form, unfiltered and unspoken. Step 6. Read gestures. The silent clues of the hands. Hands are among the most expressive parts of the human body. They move naturally when we talk, emphasize emotion, and often reveal what's going on in our minds. When words lie, gestures tell the truth. By learning to read hand movements and positions, you can understand people's confidence, nervousness, and even intentions, without a single word being spoken. Let's start with open and closed gestures. When someone's palms are open and visible, it's usually a sign of honesty, openness, and comfort. It subconsciously tells you, I have nothing to hide. On the other hand, closed gestures, like clenching fists, hiding hands in pockets, or keeping them behind the back, can signal tension, anxiety, or defensiveness. When people feel uncomfortable, they instinctively close off their body language to protect themselves. Next, watch how people use their hands while speaking. Confident individuals use natural, smooth hand movements that match their words. They gesture in rhythm with what they're saying, which makes them appear believable and in control. However, when gestures are exaggerated, forced, or disconnected from speech, it often signals nervousness or an attempt to overcompensate. Touching the face is another powerful clue. When someone touches their nose, covers their mouth, or rubs their eyes while talking, it can suggest uncertainty or dishonesty. These small gestures are subconscious attempts to hide the truth or block communication. But remember, context matters. People also touch their faces out of habit or boredom, so notice when these gestures appear in emotionally charged moments. One interesting movement to observe is steepling, when someone joins the fingertips of both hands to form a shape like a small roof. This gesture shows confidence and authority. It's often seen in people who feel in control of the situation. In contrast, wringing hands or cracking knuckles might suggest stress or internal conflict. Hand-to-neck gestures reveal emotional pressure. When people feel nervous or uncertain, they may rub the back of their neck, touch the collar, or adjust jewelry. These are self-soothing gestures meant to reduce stress. Similarly, rubbing the arms or hands together can be a sign of anxiety or anticipation. Pointing is another gesture that can tell you a lot. When used naturally, it emphasizes a message. But when used too often or too aggressively, it signals dominance or frustration. Confident communicators rarely point directly. They gesture with open hands instead, inviting connection rather than confrontation. Finally, observe how often someone uses their hands at all. Some people keep their hands still when they're guarded or uncomfortable, while others move them freely when they feel relaxed and expressive. If you notice a sudden change, from animated gestures to stiff hands, it could mean that the conversation has touched an emotional or sensitive point. To develop this skill, watch people when they speak passionately, tell stories, or argue. Notice how their hands move naturally when emotion flows freely. The more you practice, the easier it becomes to spot when gestures match or contradict someone's words. Gestures are the mind's handwriting, visible, natural, and honest. Once you learn to read them, you'll start understanding people with incredible clarity. Step 7. Pay attention to microexpressions. The hidden emotions. Microexpressions are the smallest, fastest emotional reactions a person can show, often lasting less than half a second. They happen so quickly that most people never notice them, but these flashes of emotion reveal the truth behind every mask. Even when someone tries to hide how they feel, their face betrays them for a split second before they regain control. Learning to spot these moments gives you a powerful ability to read minds without words. When someone experiences a strong emotion, anger, sadness, fear, surprise, or happiness, their facial muscles react instantly. They might raise their eyebrows, tighten their lips, or widen their eyes before they even realize it. These quick changes are impossible to fake or control because they come directly from the emotional brain. That's what makes microexpressions one of the most honest signals of human emotion. Let's look at a few examples. When someone is angry, their eyebrows pull down, eyes narrow, and lips press tightly together. When they feel fear, their eyes widen, and their mouth may open slightly as their body prepares for defense. Surprise looks similar, but it disappears faster and doesn't show tension. Sadness often shows through drooping eyelids, a lowered head, and a slight pull at the corners of the lips. Happiness, on the other hand, lights up the entire face, especially the eyes. The challenge is to notice these quick flashes before they vanish. It takes practice and attention. You can start by observing people in real conversations, interviews, or even videos. Watch closely for sudden changes that don't match the person's words. For example, if someone says they're fine but their eyes briefly show sadness, that micro-expression tells you the truth. They're not fine at all. Sometimes people try to replace their real emotion with a fake one. For instance, they may smile right after showing anger or fear. That quick hidden flash is the emotion they tried to cover up. The secret is to catch that first expression before the mask appears. Micro-expressions are not just about detecting lies. They help you understand emotions that people struggle to express. When you can read them, you respond with empathy, not judgment. You can sense someone's pain, stress, or joy even when they stay silent. To improve, practice slow-motion observation. Rewatch emotional clips, pause, and look for subtle facial changes. Over time, your awareness sharpens, and you begin to see the emotional truth behind every glance. Remember, the face can't hide what the heart feels. At least not for long. Once you learn to read micro-expressions, you'll understand people at a level most never reach. Step 8. Notice changes in behavior. When patterns break, truth appears. Every person has their own natural rhythm, a unique way of talking, moving, and expressing themselves. When that rhythm suddenly changes, it often reveals something deeper. Stress, guilt, attraction, discomfort, or even dishonesty. Reading people isn't just about spotting one gesture. It's about noticing changes in their normal behavior. When someone acts differently than they usually do, that's where the truth hides. Start by observing someone's baseline behavior. This means how they normally act when they're relaxed and comfortable. Notice their usual tone, gestures, posture, and level of eye contact. Everyone's normal is different, so never assume that one gesture always means the same thing for everyone. Instead, compare their current behavior to their usual one. For example, a person who usually speaks quickly but suddenly starts pausing or avoiding eye contact might be nervous or hiding something. Someone who's normally calm but suddenly fidgets or talks too much might feel anxious. On the other hand, a quiet person who becomes more expressive might be feeling confident or excited. The key is change. A shift in energy, tone, or attitude that doesn't match their baseline. You can also observe changes in voice and speech patterns. If someone starts speaking softer, faster, or with a different pitch, their emotional state has shifted. A sudden laugh that feels unnatural might hide tension. Likewise, if someone becomes overly serious or defensive when a topic comes up, that change can reveal emotional sensitivity. Body language shifts are also powerful clues. For instance, Someone leaning toward you during a friendly chat but suddenly crossing their arms and stepping back when a topic changes. That's a sign. Their body is telling you that something made them uncomfortable. The same goes for hand movements. Open gestures turning into hidden hands, or relaxed posture becoming stiff, often means emotional discomfort. Even small details matter. A person who normally maintains good eye contact but suddenly avoids it when asked a direct question might be feeling guilty or insecure. A smile that fades instantly after being forced might indicate irritation or sadness. These are all examples of behavioral inconsistencies, cracks in the emotional mask. To read people effectively, train yourself to notice these micro changes. Watch how people behave in neutral situations first. Then observe how that changes under pressure, surprise, or emotional topics. The difference between those two states reveals more than any single gesture ever could. However, don't rush to judgment. A single change might mean many things: stress, distraction, fatigue, or even excitement. Instead, combine multiple signals before drawing conclusions. Look for clusters of behavior: voice change, body tension, and facial shifts happening together. That's when you know something meaningful is happening. This skill takes patience, but it's incredibly powerful. Once you can identify when someone's behavior shifts, you can sense emotions as they happen, even before the person admits them. You'll know when someone feels uncomfortable, confident, nervous, or inspired. Understanding behavioral changes isn't about catching lies. It's about seeing truth beneath the surface. It allows you to communicate more effectively, avoid misunderstandings, and connect more deeply. When you learn to read the breaks in people's patterns, you stop hearing just their words. You start hearing their truth. Step 9. Observe eye movements. Understanding thought patterns. The eyes are not only windows to emotions, but also gateways to how people think. Subtle eye movements can reveal whether someone is recalling memories, imagining scenarios, or processing new information. When you learn to read these signals, you'll gain insights into what's happening inside someone's mind, all without them saying a word. Start with directional gaze. When people look up, they're usually accessing visual memories or imagining images. Looking up to the left often indicates recalling something they've seen before, while up to the right may suggest they're creating or imagining a new scenario. Similarly, looking sideways can indicate auditory or verbal thought, like remembering a conversation or inventing a story. Looking down often signals internal dialogue or emotional reflection. Next, notice rapid eye shifts. Quick, darting movements often indicate nervousness, stress, or deceit. Someone who avoids eye contact while answering a question may feel uncomfortable or anxious about revealing the truth. On the other hand, calm, steady eye contact usually reflects confidence and honesty. Blinking is another subtle but informative signal. Increased blink rate often occurs when a person feels stressed or is thinking hard. Slow, relaxed blinking indicates comfort and ease. If you notice a sudden change in blinking patterns during a conversation, it's a cue that something has triggered a shift in emotion or thought. Eye contact consistency also matters. Someone who maintains balanced eye contact is generally trustworthy and engaged. Too much eye contact, especially when prolonged unnaturally, can be a sign of dominance or discomfort. Too little can indicate avoidance, insecurity, or reluctance to share information. Sometimes, eyes reveal micro-expressions even more clearly than the rest of the face. For instance, brief widening of the eyes can show surprise or fear, while quick narrowing can indicate anger or skepticism. These fleeting expressions are usually subconscious and give you a window into their true feelings. To practice, observe people in conversations, interviews, or even in videos. Try predicting their next thought or feeling based on where and how their eyes move. Compare your observations with their words and reactions to see how accurate your reading is. Over time, this skill becomes almost instinctive. You'll sense mental shifts almost immediately. Remember, eye movement reading works best when combined with other cues like facial expressions, gestures, and voice. Alone, it can be misleading, but together, it paints a clearer picture of a person's thoughts. The eyes never lie. They reveal what words often try to conceal. Mastering the art of observing eye movements gives you a unique ability to understand the hidden thoughts and intentions of anyone you meet. Step 10. Listen to language patterns. Hidden clues in words. While body language and facial cues reveal emotions, the words people choose can also give away what they're thinking. Everyone speaks differently, but subtle patterns in language, how someone phrases sentences, the words they emphasize, and even pauses, can expose hidden thoughts, intentions, or feelings. Paying attention to these patterns helps you read minds through conversation alone. Start by noticing word choice. People often reveal their true emotions without realizing it. For example, someone feeling defensive might use negative words or qualifiers like "I think" or "maybe" to soften their statements. Confident people speak more directly, with clear, decisive language. If a person suddenly changes the way they talk compared to their normal style, that's a signal that something emotional or important is influencing them. Repetition is another key clue. When someone repeats words, phrases, or ideas, it may show strong focus, anxiety, or a desire to convince both themselves and others. Pay attention when repetition occurs around specific topics. It can reveal what's most important or stressful for them. Pauses and fillers also provide insights. Words like or long silences often signal uncertainty, or that someone is thinking carefully about what to reveal. Conversely, smooth speech with few pauses usually shows confidence and honesty. When someone's normal pattern changes suddenly, like adding more fillers than usual, it can indicate nervousness, discomfort, or even deception. Tone and emphasis in words matters as well. People unconsciously emphasize words that carry emotional weight or personal significance. For instance, stressing certain nouns or adjectives can hint at what they care about, fear, or desire. Listening closely to emphasis helps you understand the hidden emotional context behind statements. Contradictions between words and nonverbal cues are especially telling. If someone says "I'm fine," but their tone, facial expressions, or gestures suggest discomfort, their words aren't matching reality. These mismatches are where truth hides, and noticing them gives you an advantage in understanding true intentions. To practice, listen carefully during everyday conversations, interviews, or videos. Focus on subtle changes in word choice, rhythm, and emphasis. Compare what people say with how they behave physically. Over time, you'll start noticing patterns and inconsistencies almost instinctively. Language patterns are like breadcrumbs leading to someone's inner thoughts. By paying attention to both what is said and how it's said, you can uncover feelings, motives, and hidden truths that others might never express openly. Step 11. Detect inconsistencies. Spotting truth behind words and actions. One of the most powerful ways to read anyone is by noticing inconsistencies between what they say and how they act. Words can be controlled, edited, or rehearsed, but actions, body language, and subtle cues are harder to fake. When there's a mismatch, it often reveals hidden emotions, uncertainty, or even deception. Learning to detect these gaps gives you a clear insight into someone's true thoughts. Start by observing verbal versus nonverbal communication. For example, someone might say they are confident about a decision, but their posture is stiff, hands hidden, or eyes avoiding contact. That mismatch suggests hesitation or doubt. Conversely, someone might downplay their feelings verbally while their gestures, facial expressions, and tone show enthusiasm or excitement. The trick is to look for signals that contradict spoken words. Next, watch for micro-expressions that don't align with conversation. A brief flash of anger, fear, or sadness while someone talks positively is a clear signal that their words are masking true emotion. These tiny, involuntary expressions are impossible to fully control, making them one of the most reliable ways to read hidden feelings. Behavioral patterns are also important. Notice how someone usually reacts in normal situations and compare that to their reactions in the current moment. A person who normally laughs freely but suddenly tenses or stays silent is sending a signal. Changes in tone, gestures, or energy reveal emotional shifts that words alone might hide. Another clue is overcompensation. People who exaggerate gestures, smiles, or enthusiasm may be trying too hard to convince others, and sometimes themselves. Overly polite, defensive, or repetitive speech can also indicate insecurity or concealment. When behavior feels unnatural, pay attention. It often points to something beneath the surface. Timing can provide insight as well. If someone hesitates before answering a simple question or takes an unusually long pause, they might be carefully constructing a response to hide their true thoughts. On the other hand, immediate and fluid answers usually reflect confidence and honesty. To practice, start by observing friends, colleagues, or interviews. Take note of mismatches between speech, gestures, facial expressions, and tone. Look for patterns and subtle shifts that indicate emotional truth. Over time, your awareness will sharpen, allowing you to detect inconsistencies almost instinctively. Detecting inconsistencies isn't about judging or accusing. It's about understanding. People often mask feelings out of habit, fear, or politeness. By noticing the gaps between words and actions, you gain the ability to perceive hidden emotions, intentions, and truths that others may never voice. Understanding these contradictions allows you to read minds at a deeper level. You learn to see what people really feel, not just what they say, which is the essence of truly decoding human behavior. Step 12. Combine all signals. Becoming a human lie detector. After learning all the individual techniques, observing eyes, facial expressions, body language, tone, gestures, micro-expressions, behavior changes, and language patterns, the true power comes when you combine them. No single signal alone is enough to understand someone completely. The real skill is reading the full picture, noticing clusters of cues that align or contradict one another. This is what allows you to decode human behavior accurately and almost read minds. Start by paying attention to patterns, not single gestures. For instance, a brief nervous blink might not mean much on its own, but if it's combined with fidgeting hands, a change in voice pitch, and a forced smile, the story becomes clear. The person is uncomfortable, hiding something, or stressed. By looking at multiple signals together, you can distinguish between normal behavior and meaningful changes. Next, observe consistency across communication channels. Words, tone, and body language should generally match. If someone says they are happy but their posture is tense, their gestures are closed, and micro-expressions show fear, you know the verbal message is masking the truth. The more inconsistencies you spot, the deeper your understanding of their inner thoughts. Context is everything. Reading people successfully means considering the environment, culture, and individual personality. Someone may cross their arms because they're cold, not because they're defensive. The key is knowing the person's baseline behavior and noticing deviations from it. This helps you interpret cues accurately instead of assuming meaning from a single gesture. Practice active observation. Watch people in different settings, social gatherings, meetings, or even online videos. Compare their words with actions, tone, gestures, and facial expressions. Over time, you'll train your mind to recognize the subtle emotional signals that most people miss. You'll start predicting feelings and intentions before they're spoken. Another important tip is patience. Reading people is a skill that develops gradually. Don't rush to conclusions from a single clue. Look for clusters of behaviors, repeated patterns, and context-based signals. When you combine these elements, your accuracy improves dramatically. Finally, use your insights responsibly. Reading minds is not about manipulation. It's about understanding and connecting. By accurately interpreting emotions and intentions, you can respond with empathy, communicate effectively, and build stronger relationships. You'll know when someone is stressed, happy, excited, or uncomfortable, which allows you to interact more skillfully and confidently. When you combine all the techniques, eyes, face, body, voice, gestures, micro-expressions, behavior changes, and language, you essentially become a human lie detector and a master of understanding people. You'll see beyond words, sense hidden emotions, and decode intentions almost instinctively. The more you practice, the sharper your perception becomes, and the more effortlessly you can understand anyone you meet. Remember, the ultimate goal is not to judge, but to connect. With practice, you'll unlock the ability to read anyone like an open book, and that skill will transform the way you interact with the world. Finishing words. Congratulations! By mastering these 12 steps, you now have the tools to understand people on a deeper level. You've learned how to observe eyes, facial expressions, body language, gestures, micro-expressions, voice tone, language patterns, and behavioral changes, all working together to reveal hidden thoughts and emotions. The power of reading anyone without words isn't about manipulation. It's about awareness, empathy, and connection. When you notice these subtle cues, you can respond with understanding, communicate more effectively, and build stronger relationships in every area of your life. Remember, the more you practice, the sharper your perception becomes. Start observing people in everyday interactions, pay attention to patterns, and combine multiple signals. Over time, decoding human behavior will become second nature, giving you a unique advantage in both personal and professional situations. If you want to continue improving your social skills and unlocking the secrets of human behavior, make sure to subscribe to Impressive Learning English, hit the notification bell, and never miss our step-by-step guides to becoming more confident, aware, and successful.